in the run-up to the symposium, we've been getting emails from the ITI Centre explaining how many people had actually enrolled for this conference. And of course, we had a goal. We had a goal somewhere around 5,000 people. That would be great if we could get those. And then going up, we could see there were 1,000, 1,500, 2,500, 3,000. And a big couple of weeks ago, we still weren't near the goal that we had put for ourselves. So I was a bit worried that we wouldn't get where we wanted to go. So I was very happy, actually, when we had 7,500+ people now following the opening of the ITI World Symposium. So that does give you a lot of adrenaline and a lot of energy. But on the other hand, speaking to cameras is a lot different than speaking to an audience during a symposium. So I don't know how many people are behind the camera. It's the cameraman, of course, but I have no idea if there are 100 people listening, 1,000 people, 7,500 people. And if you speak at a conference, then you're looking at the audience and you can see reactions in people's faces like, he's talking rubbish, or I understand this sounds good. Or people are saying, And nothing like this is happening. So we're sitting here, I'm talking to Stephen on the other side of the world. Stephen is only looking at his TV screen, and I've got Annette next to me on the couch who's coaching us a little bit through this. And I'm hoping that what we say is actually coming through to the people listening, but I have no idea. And once again, if it's 100 people or 10,000 people, it doesn't make that much difference because I can't see if our story is coming through, yes or no. And so that's a bit of the difficult side on doing an online symposium like this as a speaker. The scientific approach and the patient-centered solutions and the challenge of choice. Right? So the scientific program committee, we were sitting down and we were thinking about this, and I was thinking about this, and what we came up with was, how can we get the patients that come into your everyday practice into this symposium? Right? We have to answer questions that fit the everyday dentist, and we're not looking for little niches and how can you do that little bit extra and make the treatment even more and more better. No, we've got patients that come into our practice every day, and how can we get them into a symposium like this? So what I actually did, I went to my patient files and I just pulled out 10 or 15 patients with all different areas, and I was looking like, what questions have these asked, what have these come with, what problems are these? And then I took them to the program committee and we said, can we have a look at this? If we approach it in this way, then we have, let's say, real live patients with a story, right? And then these patients have been further developed in the ITI Centre, and maybe the stories have been plussed up a little bit, and we could get the questions in that we were actually looking for. But in that way, I think we've come up with patient scenarios that are actual patients that will come into your practice every day and have questions like this. So now we are trying to answer questions that patients have already asked you. And then looking at science and the challenge of choice, looking at what is trendy and what has already been proven. In this way we can actually start our listeners thinking, right? What is proven, what is not proven, and what can I now learn listening to my patient and now listening to the experts as they explain how they've rounded the challenge of choice that we've given them when they have to talk about these patients. We're treating patients. Patients are people. If you go to a hospital and you are going for a treatment, you want to get the best treatment that you can get. If I go to the dentist, I have a problem, it's going to cost me a lot of money, I want the best treatment that I can get. What is the best treatment? How do we learn which treatment works best? We only learn that if we let science evaluate all the research that's been done on the different treatments, on the different materials, and then learning from that, we go to our reviews, systematic reviews, getting everything in there in science, and then coming to the conclusion what works and what doesn't work, and what has the greatest chance of working in certain situations. And that is being fair to our patient, right? Just doing something is not really a treatment, right? Learning from what other people have done, learning how it's to be done in the proper way, and then taking that to our patient, That is fair to the patient. That would be fair to me and to you as well. If we had to have a certain type of treatment somewhere in a hospital, we'd like to have the proven treatment and not the scientific, not yet proven treatment of which we do not know if it'll work, yes or no. So as we all know, originally we were planning to do the ITI World Symposium 2020 in Singapore, September last year, with these 4 patients. Right? And as the COVID pandemic came in, we realized it's going to be very difficult. So we got into discussion with the people in Singapore, and we had a chance to extend it to May. And looking at the pandemic, that didn't work either. So we had to decide to stop with the symposium in an analog way and try and find a digital way to make that work. Of course, others had already been doing things like this online, and we were looking at that and thinking, how is this going to work for us? Because what can we learn from what they're doing to make it better when we do it, right? Because we were coming a bit in the end of the pandemic, at least we hope it's in the end of the pandemic. So we had a chance to learn. And I think that the way that we've put it together around these patients and then working online where possible, getting people in when possible, has given us the dynamics that you might be looking for in a symposium. It is, of course, a pity that we cannot meet each other all here in Basel with the symposium and that we couldn't go to Singapore. But on the other hand, less travel is what I've learnt from what's been happening during the pandemic. Everything that we've been doing online, I've been learning from that and seeing that I don't need to travel always to talk to people, to communicate with people, especially when we're looking at education. I don't need to talk at the symposium. If I can get people to look online, it's going to work as well. And the format that we have found now with people on stage, people like Stephen being in Australia, communicating together, and in this way, I think we managed to get the message across. And with a lot less people travelling around the world, a lot less people having to fly into Singapore, I think the carbon footprint, but I'll have to do some arithmetic on this one, of a congress like this is going to be a lot less than it would be if we had everyone travelling all over the place. I'm not quite sure what's costing this downstream, how much energy that's costing, computer time, etc., etc. So that is something to look at. But still, I think we're going in the right direction if we can go into hybrid types of conferences, getting people logging in online, being able to communicate with questions such as we have with the community manager or with the study clubs, but also with people there in the conference at the same time. If we can get that to work properly, I think we're going into a new age of organising conferences. If they've listened to the opening of the World Symposium 2021 today, they've really learned that we're working on a lot of exciting things in the ITI. We've got our education modules. You can log in, you can learn from what we have put out as the learning routes, learning journeys, learning experience that you can get out of the ITI. We're working on other ways, giving information to you, giving you the possibility to maybe pass an exam, become a certified member of the ITI, certified member in oral implantology. So this is also something that is worth something. You've got your consensus conference results. We're looking at the ITI treatment guides. We discussed today something new, looking at our repository where you can actually put patient information in and how you can learn from that, how you can benchmark what you do in everyday practice to what your colleagues are doing. And if you can benchmark what you do, you can see where you are and you know if you need to get into education. Maybe you need to learn a bit more about what's actually evidence-based in your challenge of choice for treatments for patients. So apart from that, we're also a group of friends. You can learn from each other. We're not in competition with each other. We're here together to learn. We have our ITI and we're here to learn from each other so that we can become better professionals in our everyday practice. So more than enough arguments to think about becoming a member of the ITI.